What's up, guys? I hope you're well. So, as you've heard, South Africa's streaming giant Showmax has closed down, or they've announced that they'll be closing down soon. And the reasons that were given was that the platform is not profitable. In fact, according to the press statement that was released by the company, ever since they launched, they never really made a profit. And some of the numbers that were thrown out there was that they're actually losing 4 million rand an hour, which is like a lot. I think this is sad for the industry. This is sad for the industry. Definitely a step back in terms of a local homebrewed South African company. As you know, Showmax didn't just operate in South Africa, but it actually operated in other parts of Africa. So there's a part of me that says I think that thinks that's what partially led to the bleeding, because a lot of factors go into why something like a Showmax ultimately fails. I definitely think strategy could have been better. Um, I think they did spend a lot of money in other territories where broadband or fiber was not as advanced as it possibly needed to be in order to get the audiences that you need. Um, yeah, but also I think the content that was on Showmax, I think certain decisions could have been made, which could have uh, potentially minimized the loss or stop the bleeding. Um, I definitely do think when it comes to some of the Showmax originals, guys, Showmax had some of the best originals, of any platform. Um, you can't really compare Showmax and Netflix because I definitely do think that they speak to different people. But I will say that there are a number of hit Showmax originals that I felt had they kept them going, it potentially would have, you know, stopped the bleeding and kind of like uh, pulled the service to more profitability. Yeah, definitely. I think in certain originals, like for example, I think the strategy that was needed was let's look at what's working, right? And expand on that. So I definitely think The Wife was a huge Showmax hit. I mean, people woke up at 6 o'clock to watch this thing. I'm not a believer in shows running in perpetuity. I definitely think that shows should definitely start and come to an end. But I definitely do think that Showmax had certain hit shows which got people excited about being on the platform. And I think there should have been a strategy in place to just keep that going or keep the viewers who came for those shows going. So for example, once The Wife ends, replace it with another wife-esque kind of show. Because at least that way you get to keep the wife's audience, right? Another hit show they had was the Real Housewives franchise, most importantly, the Real Housewives of Durban. I think that was one of the biggest hits. I think a lot of women subscribed just to watch the Housewives. And when that ended, I think they should have kept that momentum going by taking it to another season. I definitely think after the ending of The Real Housewives of Durban, they should have either brought back The Real Housewives of Joburg, Gqeberha, or Cape Town, but just keep the Housewives, audience going. I definitely think that would have kept, that would have retained some of the audiences who logged onto the platform, to watch the Housewives franchise. But I also even feel like because the Mummy Club was also a hit, right? So I definitely do feel that if not the Real Housewives of Durban, then have the Mommy Club, right? Also expand it to other cities. So at least you have that ensemble cast subscriber. These are people who subscribe to watch all these women. So I think part of the problem was there was a lot of inconsistencies, particularly within that space. Like I remember when Housewives of Durban ended, there wasn't really a replacement for it. Yes, there was the Mummy Club, but the gaps between the seasons was way too big that you would have lost subscribers in between. So I definitely think that there needed to be a strategy in place to ensure that when one female-led ensemble cast show ended, there was another one to replace it. Also the same thing with adulting. I think adulting was one of the biggest shows that they had on the platform. And again, maybe they could have changed it with a woman. No, not a woman. I don't think that the male audience would have watched that. But something that appealed to the male audience, because I think adulting, what it did was it spoke to the black male subscriber, right? So when it was on, it did very well. But when it went, there wasn't really anything there to keep those particular male macho subscribers subscribed. Yeah, you have the action movies, but there's many places where action movies could be seen, whereas there's not many places when adulting could be seen. Outlaws actually was a good idea. I think had they kind of like had once adulting finished, you put in Outlaws. Once Outlaws finished, you put something targeting the males. The same thing with the teenagers. I definitely think that what is that kids show? Well, not the kids show, but what is the kid show that they had? They had that kids show. No, it's not Gen Z, Young'uns. Young'uns. Young'uns is another example of creating a passionate local audience around a show. So a lot of young people subscribed to watch Young'uns. When Young'uns ends, create another Young'uns to go in that space. Maybe not quite another Young'uns, but content that spoke, to that younger audience. So I think had they gone on that strategy, I don't know if they would have made a profit, but I definitely do think that it would have cut some of the bleeding because at least you have something for every member of the family. You have something for the guys in the family, you have something for the mothers, you have something for the kids, you know? And once you have something for each of those family members, you don't really need much else because let's be honest. American content is very expensive, but also at the same time, there's many places to watch it, right? So I definitely think that Showmax's niche was strong, solid local content. And they did a really good job at it. I think as subscribers, we would have loved to see a bit more. Um, HBO is fantastic. I definitely think that them having HBO content on it was a very good move. I think it put them in prime position to compete with Netflix, in the country. And I don't know if they had a deal where if you can, because what I know is that Mnet hosts a lot of HBO shows. So maybe it was part of the package deal that, okay, cool, that can be on Mnet and then followed by Showmax. So I think that was definitely a good idea. What I definitely feel that they could have done without is all the other random American shows that were there because I think to cut the losses, cut on some of the shows from the states that never really had a large following. I think if a show doesn't make it into the top 10, I don't think it should be brought back. I think they should have cut their losses. I think that would have saved them a lot of money. There were a lot of shows there where I just didn't understand why it made sense. Um, and then something very interesting, because I think at some point Showmax started bringing on Moja Love content, which could have either gone good or bad. It could have gone either way. But I definitely like it when broadcasters experiment um, with strategies and content. And I think having Moja Love content there was part of that experimentation. I wouldn't have put all of the Moja Love shows there um, because I think it led to a lot of brand confusion because you couldn't really look. Moja Love has shows that have the target market, right? And one thing I love about the DSTV Stream app is that if you want to watch a catch-up shows from DSTV, you could watch it on the DSTV Stream app. Actually, I think that that's what would have differentiated DSTV Stream and Showmax. I think your Mojo Love content should have stayed on DSTV Stream because they do very well there. They get into the top 10, top 20. You'll find a Mojo Love show there. So I definitely think that they shouldn't have brought it onto Showmax. But I love the fact that they experimented with it. I definitely don't think all of the shows should have been there. Um, because it also, yeah, like I said earlier, brand confusion. It caused a little bit of brand confusion, having a lot of Mojo Love shows there. So in summary, in conclusion, I definitely do, kudos to MultiChoice for actually beginning the Showmax streaming service. Look, sometimes you don't know what's gonna work until you try, you know? And I think the fact that they did give it their all with the Showmax streaming service, big ups to the to MultiChoice for doing that, you know? Um, So, word on the street is a lot of the Showmax originals are going to make their way into DSTV Stream or within the DSTV channels. So, for example, you'll most likely see a lot of the originals on your Mzansi Magics, your Nets, your Mnets, which is good. Um, but also, I suspect that there will be a new Canal Plus platform that will be launched. So, not all is lost. Um, I definitely don't think that. I definitely do think that there will be a strong, solid replacement for a Showmax, and I think we're all looking forward to seeing that. Um, I think the good thing about having a new parent company is that they're just going to keep trying different things until they land on what works. So I think definitely what I'm happy about is that there's definitely something to look forward to in terms of what's to come, what's to replace, a Showmax, because I definitely don't think that there won't be a replacement. Um, Netflix is there, great. But I think Netflix and Showmax spoke to two different audiences. So definitely there's going to be something there. Yeah. But yeah, so that was my take on the Showmax merger deal. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe and share. Thank you so much for watching. Cheers, guys.